Ladies and gentlemen, I smell some Ewoks nearby, and when there are smelly Ewoks, there is C-3PO. Ladies and gentlemen, today is going to be all of the news about C-3PO you've been waiting for. We speculated, speculation came true, and we have so many details about the event, how to get C-3PO, and gameplay of C-3PO and his kit. My goodness, this character has not only one unique, not two uniques, not three uniques. Let me cut to the chase. We have 5 unique abilities, as well as 2 abilities on top of a basic and a special ability. This guy is chock full of stuff and is the ultimate cross-faction character I have seen yet to this day in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Let's talk about the quick important information before we get too far into the heart of the video. C-3PO, as you probably heard for the 5 millionth time by now, he's gonna be a legendary character that you can unlock at 5 stars with any 5 Ewoks of your choice, and then you can bump him up to 6 stars and 7 stars thereafter. And it has been confirmed his event is happening on December 14th, which is coming pretty quickly, as we discussed a couple videos ago, so it is happening soon. But enough about the event, let's talk about what is at the end of this whole Ewok tunnel. C-3PO has a very similar tag situation to R2-D2, where he's a support, and he's a Galactic Republic, Rebel, and Resistance tag. And he has a very interesting thing. He has a special buff called Translation, and a special debuff that's called Confuse, and the more they stack up, the more bonuses your team gets, and the more negative stuff that happens to the opponents. And although this only shows 3 tags, he also has a lot of synergy with the Ewoks built into his kit, and I really want to know how that's going to translate into the real world. So while we're looking at the pre-recorded footage provided by EA, let's take a look at the basic ability, Baffling Trick. This is his basic attack, and this is where you're going to start stacking a very unique debuff called Confuse. C-3PO inflicts Confuse for 3 turns, which stacks up to a maximum of 3, which cannot be evaded, but it can be resisted. And if the target is already confused, the duration for all current stacks resets to 3 turns. And he also reduces the target enemy's turn meter by 6% and an additional 3% for each stack of translation on C-3PO. So 6% plus a maximum of 18%. You can remove 24% turn meter on the basic of C-3PO. So what does Confuse do? As I said, it applies a variety of detrimental effects depending on how many stacks of Confuse is on the enemy. 1 stack of Confuse creates pretty much a buff immunity. They can't gain any buffs. 2 Confuses means that you cannot counter, assist, or gain bonus turn meter. That's pretty much days right there. And 3 stacks of Confuse, when this character uses their basic ability, the enemy with Confuse on them, they increase all of their cooldowns by 1. Holy cow. And it looks like it's gonna be it's pretty easy to get the 3 stacks of Confuse. And then raid bosses have minus 50% defense, which does not stack with defense down. Just kind of thinking off the top of my head real quick, this probably makes Confuse one of the most powerful debuffs in the game, because this combines so many different elements of debuffs into one, and more on top of that. It's definitely up there with Isolate and whatnot, but granted, you can resist Confuse, and you also can cleanse Confuse, but this could really mess up a team that counterattacks a lot or does a lot of assisting. If they keep using their basic, they're going to keep increasing their cooldowns over and over again. You're probably already understanding the main gist of C-3PO is to be one of the ultimate support characters that doesn't attack but jacks up the other team drastically with that debuff. But here we go. My impression of C-3PO summed right here in one phrase. Oh my goodness. Cooldown of 4. C-3PO gains potency up and stealth for 2 turns. Then he and another target ally gain translation for 3 turns. C-3PO inflicts Confuse twice on a target enemy for 3 turns, then calls all other allies with translation to assist, dealing 50% less damage. This ability has so many implications, I don't think I can explain all of them right now, but basically, first of all, this translation buff, which we'll learn more about in a moment, it's kind of like secret intel in that it spreads like wildfire very quickly across the team. And as you know, C-3PO wasn't the bravest soul in Star Wars, so it kind of makes sense that he kind of hides and let everyone else do the work around him, because he's not a character that attacks and gets into the fray. But there's so many things you can do with this. For example, looking at how Confuse applies twice on a target enemy, imagine a situation where BB-8 is called to assist through this ability, and because BB-8's assisting, he calls a resistance ally to assist with him as well, assuming you have the Zeta, and because of that, he might be able to call C-3PO to assist again. So it's very well possible you can apply 3 stacks of Confuse on a target enemy with this ability alone. And as we saw with all that stuff, you're gonna apply all this garbage based on one ability alone. This oh my goodness thing can really get that confused on the field really quickly. Now we got the Christmas list of unique abilities to look at, and they could have consolidated some of these into one, but I think with kits getting so complicated, and the developers probably wanted to break it up a bit so it doesn't look too cluttered. But we have 2 Zetas needed out of these 5 unique abilities here, and the first unique we're going to talk about is Protocol Droid, which does have a Zeta. C-3PO has plus 20 speed, and while C-3PO is active, Galactic Republic, Rebel, Resistance, and here comes the Ewoks. Ewok allies gain the unique buff Translation for 3 turns, a maximum of 3 stacks, and each time they use a special ability. Translation cannot be copied, and if the character already has Translation, the duration for all current stacks of that character resets to 3 turns, and then when C-3PO is defeated, Translation disappears off the allies. So as you guys kind of see, it's going to be pretty easy to get this translation buff to make its way around the team so long as you're using special abilities within these factions. But what does translation do? It's the inverse of confuse, where for each stack of translation that stacks up on your character, you're getting a special bonus. So for the first stack of translation on a character, they're getting 30% max health. And then when you the second stack you get, you're getting plus 15% critical chance. And the third stack of translation on a character means that when C-3PO uses his basic ability, he decreases his character's cooldowns by 1. So he's increasing the other team's cooldowns. And it's very easy to get translation to stack, and you're going to quickly reduce cooldowns of your team. And especially if you got like BB-8 constantly calling C-3PO to assist, my goodness, a lot of cooldown reductions happening on the team. So characters like Chewbacca can keep spamming their massive AoE ability, or CLS can keep doing call to action, Han Solo can keep doing his crazy stuff. Man, this just has so much potential. And with this first unique in mind, let's transition to the second unique, because each little unique ability kind of sews themselves into one another. And here we start seeing the lovely bromance between R2-D2 and C-3PO with Wait For Me. It has a Zeta, the second and last Zeta for C-3PO. C-3PO and R2-D2 have plus 10% evasion for each of their own stacks of translation, because they're always avoiding the fights pretty much in Star Wars. And then at the start of the encounter, C-3PO and R2-D2 gain translation for 3 turns, and when there are no other allied combatants, like Kermit Yoda, C-3PO escapes from the battle. So basically, when you're getting all these additional stacks of translation, C-3PO and R2-D2, they become quite elusive, so they're not getting hurt as much. That's the hope. And if they're starting off with a stack of translation, that means they're starting the battle off with 30% max health right at the very get-go. Unique number 3, Intermediary, and from here on down, we're going to see specific bonuses for specific factions. All allies have plus 10% defense penetration, and each time a Galactic Republic or Ewok ally gains a different non-unique, non-protection buff, they gain 15% protection up for 2 turns, and this does not stack with itself. And then for each stack of translation, Galactic Republic has 10% defense penetration and doubled for Ewoks. So Galactic Republic, they're getting a bunch of defense penetration, as well as Ewoks. They're getting double, as we're going to see for the next few abilities. But Cyborg Relations, here we're starting to see specific bonuses for Rebels and Ewoks yet again. All allies have plus 10% potency, and whenever a Rebel or Ewok ally uses their basic ability, they inflict expose on a target enemy for 2 turns, which cannot be evaded, but it can be resisted. For each stack of translation, Rebel allies have plus 10% potency, and guess what? Ewoks are getting doubled. So as we're seeing, although there's no Ewoks baked into the actual tags of the character, he's feeding a bunch of double bonuses for Ewoks specifically, which is kind of funny. So I'm wondering if there's some secret combo going on for Ewoks with C-3PO that they're not showing us just yet with this pre-recorded footage, and it's something we're going to have to find out. So luckily, we're gearing up these characters, and we're going to get a lot of bonuses for these Ewoks in the end with C-3PO. Oh, and we finally made it, ladies and gentlemen. The last unique ability, Fretful Mediator. All allies have plus 10% critical damage, and whenever a Resistance or Ewok ally uses their special ability, they inflict offense down on the target enemy for 2 turns, which cannot be evaded, but it can be resisted. For each stack of translation, Resistance allies have plus 10% critical damage, and what else? You guys say it with me. Doubled for Ewoks. A lot of stuff for Ewoks. They're going to get 20% extra critical damage, 20% extra potency, 20% defense penetration. it's a lot of stuff being fed to them. And on top of that, you're getting all the other stuff that we read earlier with the getting all the translation buffs every time they're using a special ability. So C-3PO, as you're kind of seeing, ties in so many factions. It's unfortunate that we don't really see a lot of droid stuff baked into this kit. I was hoping for some more droid synergy, but really, in all of these unique abilities, I'm glancing again really quickly, there's nothing that really helps out the droid faction, which seems like a missed opportunity, and I am bummed about that. Out of all the factions that C-3PO is connected to, the Rebellion, Resistance, Galactic Republic, the droids, the frickin' Ewoks, I gotta say, I think he's gonna be the most beneficial in a Rebel squad. Now, of course, this is pre-recorded footage by EA, just initial impressions. I don't know how they modded their team and the opposing team, but they were able to take out Darth Traya pretty easily, which isn't too much to brag about, but they were able to battle Jedi Knight Revan with a pretty big margin of victory. Of course, we don't quite know how that battle was structured beforehand, but I think a lot of people are hoping that C-3PO is going to help bring balance for people who don't have Jedi Knight Revan in Arena and Grand Arena. If you have C-3PO, it'll be great to take your current Rebellion faction and be able to compete against Jedi Knight Revan so you're not being trumped by a very expensive paywall team. I don't know if he's going to be the ultimate counter to Jedi Knight Revan, but as long as they're viable, they can compete against Jedi Knight Revan. I think that's a lot to talk about for C-3PO. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. C-3PO, man, I think he's got a lot of potential in this game. There's a lot we have to learn about this character still, so stay tuned. December 14th, he is coming out. I will put out a video with me taking my Ewoks that probably aren't the most optimized quite yet for the event, but hopefully this event is not too difficult so we can at least, a lot of us, get this character because I think he's going to be important for the future of Star Wars. Let me know down below, what are your thoughts of this character? Too complicated, just right? Is he amazing? Share your thoughts down below. Let's pass on the ball over to you guys. If you want some more content, be sure to like this video if you did enjoy it, comment down below, and subscribe so you're not missing a thing. And until the next video.
Party Richter, Party Richter. Down, 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 down. Party Richter, Party Richter. Son of a bitch. Party Richter, Party Richter. Down, down, down.